Hey everyone, welcome back. So, President Trump just dropped a big idea and it's got a lot of folks talking. He's floated the possibility of sending out new stimulus style rebate checks to Americans funded by tariffs. Yeah, the very tariffs that have been raising prices on things like electronics, clothing, even household items. And now the money those tariffs bring in could be heading right back out straight to you as a kind of stimulus payment. We're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. Now, I know what you're thinking. How would that even work? And is it something you could actually benefit from? That's the big question. Because while the checks sound helpful, the way they're funded raises a few eyebrows, and what I'll show you in a bit might surprise you. But before we get into all of it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If the government sent out a check today funded by tariffs, what would you use it for? Let me know down in the comments. I always enjoy reading your responses, and if you find this kind of breakdown helpful, go ahead and subscribe. It's a great way to stay informed without all the noise. So here's what's going on. President Trump made some off-the-cuff remarks outside the White House, and one of those comments hinted at a rebate check for Americans. He said something like, "We've got so much money coming in," and then added, "maybe a little rebate for people of certain income level." Now, that might sound vague, and it is, but the numbers behind it are real. According to the Treasury Department, just in the first half of 2025, the U.S. government pulled in over $100 billion from tariffs, and in July alone, they're expecting around $27 billion more. That's a massive chunk of revenue, especially when you remember that tariffs are basically taxes placed on imported goods. But here's the twist. Even though that money technically comes from importers, the cost usually gets passed on to regular people when we go to the store. So prices go up, and now the government is saying, we might give some of that money back. You see, the idea sounds like a refund, but in reality, it's more like we raised your grocery bill and now we're thinking of giving you a coupon. And if you think that sounds backwards, you're not alone. Still, the proposal is drawing attention. Trump says the main goal is to pay down the national debt, which is hovering somewhere around 6 to 37 trillion. But he's also open to using some of that revenue to send checks to Americans, especially those in lower income brackets. So then, where do these checks actually fit in? Some folks are calling this a version of what's being nicknamed the Doge dividend. That's based on an idea from a Trump-aligned advisor, James Fishback, who pitched a plan that would reward Americans with up to $5,000 for government waste and fraud. Think of it like a cashback program with saved taxpayer dollars, and maybe you get a piece of the pie. The idea is interesting, sure, but hasn't become law. Nothing has passed Congress and no official rules are in place. Now, I know what some of you might be wondering. Haven't we done rebate checks before? Yes, and actually quite a few times. Back in 2001 and again in 2008, the Bush administration sent out rebates to help during recessions. Then in 2020 and 2021, both Trump and Biden approved direct stimulus payments to help people get through the pandemic. But those checks were tied to a crisis. Job losses, economic shutdowns, national emergencies. And this time, there's no emergency driving it. The justification is that we've collected all this money from tariffs, and instead of just keeping it, maybe we give some back. That's what makes this idea unique and a little controversial. Because let's talk about those tariffs. A lot of the things we buy are made overseas. So when tariffs go up, importers pay more and that cost is passed on to consumers. It's like an invisible tax. And low-income households tend to feel it the most because a bigger portion of their paycheck goes toward everyday essentials. So, in effect, the government is saying, we raise your prices, but now we'll send you a little something to make up for it. The problem is it doesn't really cancel out. You might get a one-time check, sure, but the price hikes stick around. One former Fed economist put it pretty bluntly. She said, "This is like trying to put out a fire with a hose while lighting matches at the same time. It's a back-and-forth policy that doesn't fix the root of the problem." And guess what? Even within Trump's own party, there's pushback. House Speaker Mike Johnson said recently that while the idea of rebate checks might be politically helpful, it goes against what conservatives stand for. Fiscal responsibility, balanced budgets, that kind of thing. He even used the phrase pay down a credit card to explain why handing out checks might not be the smartest long-term move. So, yeah, the idea is creating some real tension. On one hand, it appeals to working-class voters who could really use extra money right now. On the other hand, it risks making the national debt worse and could heat up inflation. And here's something else to keep in mind. Even though this might sound like a brand new idea, Trump has done something like it before. In 2008, when tariffs hit American farmers hard, his administration sent out billions in relief to help them stay afloat. It was a way of balancing out the damage done by the trade war with China. So now, instead of farmers, the checks could go to everyday Americans. And let's be honest, Trump is a master of messaging. Remember when those 2020 stimulus checks came in the mail with his name on them? For a lot of people, it felt personal, like he was handing it to them himself. A rebate check funded by tariffs, especially in election year, could be a powerful signal, not just financially, but politically, but we're not there yet. As of now, there's no bill in Congress, no eligibility criteria, no timeline, just an idea, a statement. Still, the fact that it's being talked about this much shows how powerful even a hint of financial support can be, especially in uncertain times. And also, it shows how much politics and economics are tangled together right now. Is this rebate check about helping Americans afford rising prices? Or is it about winning votes and grabbing headlines? Maybe both. So, what does this mean for you? Well, it means stay alert. These kinds of ideas can move quickly if the momentum builds, especially if inflation data swings or political pressure ramps up. There's a chance this turns into something real, but there's also a chance it fades out like a lot of headline ideas. The important thing is to look beyond the headline. Ask yourself, where is the money coming from? And what's the trade-off? Because even if the check shows up in your mailbox, that money came from somewhere. And if it didn't come from new taxes, it likely came from tariffs you already paid through higher prices. Still, I get it. A check is a check. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that money matters. It's not just political theory. It's groceries, it's bills, it's breathing room. So yeah, even if the policy is messy for a lot of people, the help is welcome. But long-term, it's worth asking whether we want to keep using these kinds of Band-Aid solutions. Whether it's rebates, stimulus, or credits, none of it replaces a system that's fair, predictable, and built to actually support people when they need it most. So now we wait, we watch. We keep an eye on what happens next, and if anything does become official, I'll be right here to break it down step by step with you. If you found this helpful, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to share your thoughts down below. Whether you support the idea, have concerns, or just want to vent about rising costs, let's keep the conversation going. And remember, this isn't about fear or hype or headlines. It's about being informed and staying prepared. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.